Okay, welcome back to the inheritance sessions. In these sessions, we will learn how to redefining inherited member functions from the derived class. So let's start. In the last sessions, we learned that derived classes automatically inherit all the member variables and member functions of the base class. And we learned that base class is a parent class and derived class is a child class. And you don't need to declare inherited members in the derived class. It is automatically included in the derived class. But in some cases, you need to change the definitions of an inherited member functions in the derived class so that it has a meaning in the derived class that is different from what it is in the base class. We call this redefining the inherited member functions. For that case, in order to redefining the member functions, the inherited member functions, you need to explicitly declare member functions that is going to be redefined from the derived class. So in this example, print check is the member functions of employee class, but we also explicitly declared print check member functions in the hourly employee class, which is a derived class or child class of employee class, because our employee class inherits this employee class. We declared the print check member function, which is an inherited member functions, because we want to redefine its definitions in the hourly employee class. So unless you want to redefine the inherited members, you don't need to declare them in the derived class. And note that C++ allow us to drop the constants on the functions when we redefine it in the derived class. So if you look at this example, this print check member functions has a const keyword in this base class, but as you can see here, there is no const keyword here. So you can remove the const keyword when you are redefining the inherited member functions from the derived class. This is syntactically correct. And we learned the function overloading when we are studying functions. Function overloading and redefining, they look similar, but they are very different. So do not confuse redefining a function's definitions in a derived class with overloading a function name. So when you redefine function definitions, the new function definition in the derived class has the same number and types of parameters. So the function signature remains same, which means they are same functions, but they are just rewritten. On the other hand, when you overload the functions, the overloaded function has a different number of parameters or a parameter of different types. So the function signature changes when you are overloading functions. And this means overloaded functions are new functions, even though function name is same. So overload function must have a different signature. Redefined functions should have the same function signatures. So that's the differences between redefining the member functions from the derived class and overloading a function name. So don't be confused about them. And when you change the inherited function definition through redefining it, the function definition that was given in the base class is not completely lost to the derived class object. It's not lost. You can still access the function given in the base class. For that, you need to use the scope resolution operator with the name of the base class. As you can see from this example, we have two class, employee and hourly employee. We saw this class in the previous slides. This hourly employee class inherit this employee class. And here we have a JE, which is an employee class type of objects, and Sally H, which is a hourly employee class type of objects. So using this Jane E, we are calling these print check member functions. And we also call the print check member function using these Sally H objects. This object types of class is different. This one is an employee class, and this one is our employee class. And recall that we redefine these print check member functions from this hourly employee class. So if you go back to these slides, so as you can see here, this employee class and hourly employee class both have a print member check functions. So even though hourly employee inherit this employee class, because it redefined this print check, when you call print check using this hourly employee class type of objects, the redefined function will be invoked here. So hourly employee print check member function will be invoked in this line. But because JE is a type of employee class, the employee's print check member function will be called. So two different member functions will be called here. But sometimes you may want to invoke the functions, the parent member functions from the derived class, like this example. So here, this is a derived classes objects, but using this syntax, the base class name with this scope resolution operator, you can call the base classes member functions using this derived class type of objects. So if you do this, if you do this, you call the redefined print check member functions. And if you do this, you call the print check defined in the parents class. So the function definition of the parents class is not lost even though you redefine the inherited member functions. So you can still access it. So let's look at this concept using a demo code. So like a previous example, we have two class, person and students. And student class inherit this person's class. So this class inherits all the member functions from the person class, which is this one. But as you can see here, it declares the print info member functions, which is also defined in this person class, the base class. So it's the student class redefining these print info member functions. And the print info member function in the person class just prints the name of the member variable, name, person name. But the redefined print info member functions print the name of the functions the name of the person by calling the base classes print info functions. You can call the base classes member function like this way, using scope resolutions operator and push the base class name. So if you do this, you can call the print info member function defined in the base class. And after that, it prints the student ID as well. So there is two versions of print info. Just printing the name and the printing name as well as a student ID. So we redefine the print info inherited member functions from the student's derived class. And inside of this main function, we create the objects of student class type. So so the name will be set to JSON because this will call the constructor of this student class, and this constructor calls the constructor of base class, which is this one, because it passes one argument, and it sets the variable name using this argument. So name will be set to JSON, and by calling sets SID functions, which is defined, declared and defined in the derived class, the student class. These functions does not declared in this parents class, so this member function only exists in this student class. And because this is the student type of object, we can call these functions. So by calling this function, we set the SID member variable 10, and we call the print info functions. And because this is the type of student class objects, these versions of print info will be called here. Then after printing this line, we call the base classes print info functions. So using this scope resolution operator and the base class name, using these dot operators, you can call the print info member function defined in the base class. So let's compile this program and see the output. So as expected, this one is printed because of this one. So name JSON is printed because of this line. Here we are calling the base classes print info, and then we are printing student ID and SID. So student ID, SID 10. Student ID is 10 because we set SID here. And then after printing this line, we are calling this print info. Now we are calling these versions of print info. So only the name is printed, not student ID. So like this way, you can call the redefined member functions from the derived class. And using this form of the syntax, you can call the member functions defined in the base class, the parents class. Okay, so let's go back to the slides. Okay, so this is the example code that we have just discussed about it. So in summary, in this session, we learned redefinitions of inherited member functions. And we talk about the differences between overloading and redefining functions. So don't be confused about these two. Overloading functions has different function signatures, and redefined functions has the same signatures. And we also saw how to access redefine the original member function. So we saw that even though the derived class redefine the inherited member function, we can still access the member functions from the base class using scope resolution operators. So that's it for these sessions. See you in the following sessions.